Masechta Sanhedrin, Daf Beis, Amud Aleph and Amud Beis. Not just a legal system, p'ticha lemasechet Sanhedrin. As with each Masechta, the first shir is usually an opening to the Masechta where we try and understand some of the foundational principles that we'll refer back to as we work our way through the Masechta. This is Masechta Sanhedrin, which deals with the whole structure of the legal system of Am Yisrael. But as the title of the shir suggests, this is far beyond the legal system. We would have created a legal system even without the Torah's instruction. Every society in the world has a legal system. The system of the Torah is not just a legal system. That's not what it's about. It's not a bureaucratic system. It's actually a channel for channeling Hashem's presence into the communities. And its role is not to punish. Its role is to judge. There's a difference between judging and punishing. Let's understand that. Let's start with the psukim in Parshas Yitro, where Yitro gives Moshe the idea of a structure for the legal system. You should now find people of courage, people of moral strength. Yirei Elokim Anshe Emet Sonei Vatza. Three qualities they need to have in addition to being Anshe Chayil. They need to be Yorei Elokim. They need to be frum. They need to be people who keep the Torah mitzvahs, people who are God-fearing. They need to be Anshe Emet. They need to have integrity. Sonei Vatza. They must be people who despise any form of entitlement to money that isn't theirs. V'samta alehem sarei alafim, sarei meot, sarei chamishim, v'sarei asarot. And you should set up people who are appointed over 1,000, people who are appointed over 100, over 50, and over 10. Then further on in Parshas Reish, Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sharecha. Hashem says, you must in fact appoint judges and police in all your cities. Asher Hashem lekechem niten lecha lishvatecha v'shaftu et ha'am mishpat tzedek, and they should judge the nation righteously. Says Rashi, that's not an instruction on the judges that they must judge righteously. It's manei dayanim tzadikim umumchim. The instruction is to Klal Yisrael that you have to appoint judges who are tzadikim umumchim. And here we already see how divergent our legal system is from any other legal system in history, never mind in humanity. That a judge has to go not only through law school and to understand, to be a mumche, not only to be somebody who understands the law, not only to be somebody of integrity, an ish emet and a sonei betza, not only a man of moral courage, an ish chayil, but he has to be a Yorei Elokim, he has to be a Talmid Chacham. He has to be a great human being in terms of halakha, in terms of observance of Torah. Why do we care about that so much? Why isn't it sufficient that he's a specialist in his subject and a man of superb integrity? Why do we need him also to be a Yorei Elokim and to be a tzaddik? He's got to be a tzaddik, not just a Yorei Elokim. A tzaddik this man has to be. And how many of them are there? Down to 1 in 10, Sarei Asarot. That means 1 in 10, and we see in our Gemara, in fact, these are some of the reasons why I'm reaching this conclusion that this isn't a legal system. This is something very different. A legal system, you don't need tzaddikim. You need mumchim and people of integrity. You need specialists and people of integrity. For a legal system, you don't need 1 in 10. Out of every minyan, one of the people there is a dayan. If 50 people get together to daven, the chances are that 5 of them are judges. Where do you find that in any society? Why do you need a judge for every 10 people? How often do you go to Beis Din? How often do you go to a judge? Every 10 people needs a dayan. This is not a legal system. And we learned when we started Bovekama, when we started Nezikin, we learned Rabbi Yehuda's din, man de boy lemevi chaside lekayim milta de Nezikin. If you want to be a chosid, you want to be a righteous person, learn Nezikin. Yesterday we learned Arotzeh Shiyachkim. If you want to be a wise person, learn Nezikin. So again, you see this duality. You need wisdom, and it generates wisdom, and you need sitkut. You need righteousness, and it generates righteousness. What is it with this legal system? And our Gemara says, how many people do you need in a city to require it to have a Sanhedrin of 23 people? As we'll see in the Mishnah, a Sanhedrin is a minimum of 23 people. How big must the city be to justify a Sanhedrin, a court of law of 23 judges? Rabbi Nechemia אומר 230 כנגד 120, Rabbi Nechemia אומר 230 כנגד שרי עשרות. At the very least, 230. There have to be 10 times the number of judges. So a little village of 230 people. How many villages do you know that are only 230 people? A little kibbutz would need a Beis Din of 23 dayonim, 23 Talmidei Chachamim. It's difficult enough to get a community to appoint a rabbi and pay for him. To say 23 every community, imagine in KBR, in KLR, how many rabbonim you would need, how many dayonim you would need to serve the community. What is this? What kind of legal system is this? It's clearly not a legal system. It's something much more than that. There's a wonderful Talmud Chacham by the name of Uri Brilliant. You know Uri? Uri Brilliant grew up here in Ra'anana. He's a young man. Well, he's done many wonderful things. One of them is he gives a Daf Yomi Shir every day on a podcast. It's called sinai.org.il. And it's unbelievably clear. It's in Hebrew. It's unbelievably clear. And it takes him 15 minutes to do the daf. In the amount of time it takes us to do a Matmonim, he does the whole daf. And in addition to that, he challenged himself with an exercise he believed he had a thesis that on the first daf of every mesechta are the principles of the whole mesechta. So he wrote a little book called Talmud beregel echad, where he takes the beginning of each mesechta and he writes an essay on the first daf, laying down some of the principles. And he notes here that the number of judges per capita is 1,000 times more than in modern Israel. To talk about judicial overhaul. 1,000 times as many judges as we have in the legal system in Israel. We would need to be mekayim the system according to the Torah. What kind of legal system is that? It's not an efficient legal system. That's not what it's about. Furthermore, Rashi says, we're going to have it further on, based on the Gemara there, you can't punish a person unless you've got hatra. Not only do you have to have evidence, and that evidence has to be rigorously tested. It's almost impossible for witnesses to pass the testing of evidence. In addition to that, there has to be hatra. Yodea ani sheken ani muzhar shelo la'asot. I need to know that, yes, I'm doing this, I'm transgressing the laws of Shabbat, or whatever it is, I'm murdering somebody. And I know I'm not allowed to. And you've got to be hetirat molimitai, where you've got to say, when you warn him, beware that if you do this, we're going to take you to Beis Din and you're going to be put to death. And he says, yeah, I know that, that's fine. And he's got to then do it within 3 or 4 seconds of the hatra'ah, of the warning. What chance is there that a Beis Din is ever going to get to a point where they actually punish? So from those laws itself, you realize, yes, there are times when you have to punish. That's a different system. Every society will do that. You have to punish people to disincentivize criminality, to the criminal activity. You understand that. But that's not what the Beis Din is about. If the Beis Din was for the purpose of punishment, you would make punishment something realistic. But to make punishment completely unrealistic, that it's virtually impossible for them ever to punish somebody, so what's their role? What are they there for? Clearly it's not for punishment. It's for something else. And I suggest it's for judgment. There's a difference between judgment and between punishment. The Mishnah starts as a dinei mamonot bishlosha, gzelot v'chabalot bishlosha. There are 3 levels of Beis Din: a Beis Din of 3 people, a Beis Din of 23 people, and a Beis Din of a Sanhedrin of 71 people. And the Mishnah goes through all the rules as to when you use the 3, when you use the 23, and when you use the 71. And the Mishnah starts off saying, monetary laws, you need 3. Gzelot v'chabalot, and damages and theft, you need 3. And the Gemara goes into why you have to say these things separately. So if it's just a mandatory thing, people are having an argument over a mandatory issue, you need 3, and they don't even have to be mumchim as we paskin. We'll go into that during the Masechta. A mumche means somebody who has smicha going all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu, as we'll see in the Rambam. So that's called a mumche adayin who has proper smicha. With all due respect to the smicha program, it's not that smicha program. It's smicha we don't even have today. It goes back to Moshe Rabbeinu. So for normal mandatory matters, you don't need a mumche. 3 ordinary people can judge the matter. But for other things where there is punishment involved, whether it's financial punishment or physical punishment, there you need at least 1 mumche. There has to be at least 1 person who's a musmach, who comes with smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu, has to be on the Beis Din. Why? Because I would suggest the Beis Din's function and the laws of Sanhedrin are 2 separate principles. The one is to decide matters of ownership. Who owns this money? Who owns this property? Who owns this object? That's its one function, where its focus is on an object. Whose is the object? It has another function, and that's to judge people. And in judging people, the Beis Din actually changes the status of people. And from that, we begin to understand a little bit, because on Didei Mamonot Bishlosha says Rashi, right at the very beginning of the Masechta, the very first Rashi, Bigmara Yalfinan Luhu. Why 3? We'll see in the Gemara why 3. So Rashi is telling you already in the Mishnah that it's really important to know what the origin of that law is, that you need 3. Where do we get it from? We get it from, as Rashi explains the Gemara on the next page, Midikatav b'farsha Elohim shlosha zimni nafkalan debeinan shlosha. The word Elohim, which means judges, in that context is mentioned 3 times. From there you see that you need 3 people. But look what the word is used, the word that is repeated 3 times, from which we learn that you need 3 people as a minimum in a Beis Din. The word is Elohim, is God's name himself. Because we're talking about judging people. Who can judge people? No human being can judge another human being. You don't have enough information about anybody to judge them for anything. You can judge an action. You can say that action is not okay. I have enough information to know that it's wrong to steal. I have enough information to know it's wrong to murder. It's wrong to talk Lashon Hara. Those are things that I know. But to judge a person and say, you are a Rasha, you are a wicked person, how can I say that? On what basis can I say that? Only Elohim can say that. Only Hashem can say that. And that's why the Dayanim are Elohim, the Dayanim are not anybody else. So what is the role of punishment? They're judging people. You are a Rasha. What is the role? So why punishment? Why then Malkot? Why then Mitah? There are all these punishments that Beis Din can give. And as we've just shown, but they actually hardly ever give it. What's that all about? So when the Torah teaches us the principle of Malkot, of giving a person the stripes for 40 times, 39, your brother will be disgraced in front of you, says the Gemara, says the Mishnah in Makos, Kivan shelaka harehu achicha. Once he's got his punishment, he becomes your brother. He's no longer a Rasha. And the Bechor Shor brings the whole libud and its implications of that. What does that mean? What that means is that punishment in the Torah is not punishment at all. Punishment is restitution. The Beis Din says, you're a Rasha. You're a wicked person. So what do? I've got to do tshuva. I've got to have kapara. One of the ways of kapara is punishment. Punishment is a privilege. If one's a Rasha, punishment is a privilege. It's not the Beis Din punishes. Hashem punishes. And that gives one the opportunity to do proper tshuva. And the Ramban in Parshas Mishpatim goes into the whole question of why the word is Elokim is used. Li'moz ki Elokim yiyeh mahim bedvar mishpat hu yatzdik v'hu yarshia. This is not a human being who makes these judgments. This is Hashem who makes the judgments. Human beings can't make these judgments. Again, this is not a system of a court of law. This is bringing Hashem's decisions, bringing Hashem's judgment of people into the world and making them accessible. Would we want to go through our lives not knowing how Hashem views us? Does Hashem view us as a tzaddik or a rasha? We don't know. A Beis Din's job is to let you know. Hashem is viewing you in this particular instance as a rasha. You have to do tshuva. And he goes on developing this idea. And that's why, says the Rambam, Echad Beit Din Agadol ve'echad Sanhedrin Ktana or Beit Din Shel Shlosha. No matter what Beit Din, Tzarich she'yeh echad mehem samuch mipi samuch. There must be somebody on the Beit Din who has smicha from somebody who has smicha. Moshe Rabbeinu samach Yoshua beyad. Moshe Rabbeinu gave smicha to Yoshua. V'chein hashvatim zekinim. V'chein hashivim zekinim, Moshe Rabbeinu samacham, and the 70 zekinim, Moshe gave them smicha. V'otam zekinim samchu la'achirim, v'achirim la'achirim, and they gave smicha to others, and they to others. V'nimtzu asmuchim ish mipi ish ad beit dino shel Yoshua v'ad beit dino shel Moshe Rabbeinu. On every Beis Din, there's somebody who has smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu passed down. And this is clearly not a matter of just testing proficiency. This is not passing the bar exams. This is being given authority from the Ribono Shel Olam to make judgments on his behalf. judgments of human beings, which normally we're not allowed to make. But in this case, we can make it because of the smicha, and so on. And the Rambam goes on in Halacha Bet, it's not about putting your hands onto the elder the way you do with a korban. That's not what smicha means. Ela shekorin lo rebi v'omrim lo harei at samuch v'yesh lecha reshut ladun afilu dinei knasot. It says you are from here on called Rebbe and you're allowed to make these judgments. And it's interesting, if you see Rashi in Parshas Yitro, what is Anshei Emet? He says, Ba'alei Havtacha, trustworthy people, Shehem Kedai Lismoch al Divreim. That's what smicha means. Smicha doesn't mean I lean on you. Smicha means you can be lent on. You're a reliable human being. You're a trustworthy human being. Smicha is entrusting a human being with the trusteeship of Hashem's judgment of our fellow human beings. That's what smicha is. And then the Rambam goes on in Halacha and in Halacha Gimel and Halacha Dalet. And this is all developed beautifully in the 11th drasha of the Ran. We spoke about the drasha of the Rosh Taran of this particular drasha in Bava Metzia, Daf Nuntet, I think it was, and Tanush Lachnai, that was in April. Think how much we've learned since April and how much the world has evolved since April. It wasn't that long ago. And we learned, and I referenced this drasha of the Ran. It's an unbelievable drasha of the Ran. The Ran wrote these 13 drashot, which are his philosophical essays developing the fundamental ideas of the Torah. On Parshas Shoftim, this is the piece that he writes, and it's a long piece and a wonderful piece, and he explains there that there is a system of justice which is to keep the society functioning, and that's in the king's room. That's what the king needs to do. What the Beis Din needs to do is a different thing altogether. Ani mevarot b'zeh v'omer shekemo shenityakhda toratenu mibein nimusei umot ha'olam b'mitzvot v'chukim. Just as our Torah is different from that of other nations in the mitzvahs and statutes we've been given, ein inyanam tikun medini klal. They are not for the purpose of societal improvement at all. The mitzvot of the Torah are not to create good societies. We have to do that in any event. Aval hanimshach mehem hu chul hashefa ha'eloki be'umatenu v'hidab ko imanu. The purpose of these laws is to bring the Shekhinah into our midst as a community, and so that we can live around the principles of the Torah with clarity and understanding. And that we have among every 10 of us, there's a Rov. Among every 10 of us, there's a Talmid Chochem. Among every 10 of us, there's a Dayan who's able to clarify, to teach, to do tochacha, to tell us if something that we're doing is not right, that there's intimacy between the Dayan and us. This isn't some posek who lives in New York and paskins dinim in Yerushalayim, or lives in Bnei Brak and paskins dinim in Los Angeles. That's not how it works. The Rav is one of the community. He knows them. He lives with them. He knows how to apply the halachot, each to their own situation, to make a decision which is according to that person's situation, because he knows every person so intimately. And the purpose is to bring Kedusha into the community. This is not about a legal system. This is about one of the channels that the Ribono Shel Olam uses in order to bring his presence into us. So we would have created a legal system, even if the Torah didn't tell us, just as every non-Jewish nation does, that the system of the Torah is much, much more than a bureaucratic legal system. It's a channel of Hashem's presence into our community. It doesn't punish, it judges. And judging is not the same as punishing. It's very seldom that a Beis Din can actually punish. It's very, very unusual. But it can judge, and it does judge. And that's the authority it's been given by the Torah.